Hang on. Oh, wait.
No. We're rolling, dude. Darcy's been talking a lot. Needs to wet the whistle.
Oh, there we go.
Is that the right word? Wet the whistle?
I think that's when you're drinking beer.
Is that right?
I could be wrong. Post your comments below.
Etymology of wet the whistle.
Yeah.
Attention hacking. This one's you, dude. You've written a whole book on this.
Yes.
And this is, I think, a masterful way of understanding how you can gain awareness and attention through deliberate actions.
Yes.
And no doubt, there's, again, pros and cons to this. And sometimes the strategy deployed to gain attention is not that good. Sometimes it's great. Again, it's being aware of what it is and what it isn't. Das, I'm just going to sit back and enjoy this one.
Yeah, thank you. This is a lot of fun. So attention is an interesting thing. Steve, can you start looking up the etymology of attention? I would love that. Thank you. So attention as a concept is extremely fascinating, because if I said to you, what is attention? Most people go, I know what attention is. And then we look at it and we go, well, how do you define it? You let me know what attention is. And people go, oh, well, when people are looking at you. It's like, really? Can I be looking at you but not really paying attention to you? The answer is like, yeah, I suppose so. It's like, well, it's when you're listening to people. That really matters. It's like, cool. Well, what if you're listening to me but you're not really listening? Are you still paying attention? And it starts to become this murky water of like, what is attention? At what point am I just looking at you? And at what point am I genuinely, truly paying attention? Okay. And so number one, that's the problem you got to solve for yourself is, first of all, how do I know I'm even achieving attention? How do I know I'm even receiving it? And second of all, how do you know that attention that you're receiving is being put to good use? Third of all, how do you know what people are thinking when they're paying you attention? People could be listening to me right now speaking, and I'm like, people are paying attention to me as they listen to this, but they're not paying attention at all. They're looking at the food in my teeth, or they're looking, at the fact that my pants are weird, or, like, just because you're looking at someone doesn't mean you're paying attention to them. And even if you are paying attention to them, doesn't mean you're paying attention to the thing they think you're paying attention to them for.
For sure.
Attention is it's so murky. And if I get you to define it, I know that if we actually sit down, it can be difficult. So how do we ultimately create attention in a way as a strategy to get us a particular result? And the answer may shock you more than you think, because most people think getting attention means actually doing something. Okay.
Being noisy or something.
Being noisy or creating something. But here's the thing. If everyone's creating noise in the room, but you're the one remaining silent, who are people going to start paying attention to?
Yeah.
So when that's the case, we look at attention and we look at it from a perspective of something, Steve, you've written extensively about, which is being the one who is different in the room. Okay. So how do we attract attention? The first thing to do is to be the white flag amongst all the black flags, or you be the white sheep amongst all the black sheep, or you be the one matchstick that has been lit amongst, when you open the box, all of them are little red tips, Enter better analogy here. But ultimately we get what we're talking about here. You're the green apple amongst all the red ones. Yeah. That is an incredible way to attention hack. Okay. What's the problem with that? The problem with that is that goes against every single fiber of your being that is driven to fit in with the crowd. There are chances that you have in the sales game, in business, in life, to stand out and you will win. But you will not even be seeing them as an opportunity right now, because literally you're not wired to see that. But the second that you do tap into something that would allow you to be different to everyone else, and you have that spark of an idea of like, that would be amazing, you must act on it immediately before your natural DNA kicks in and goes, yeah, that'll make you too far away from the crowd. And it's dangerous out there. Kind of need you to stay within here so we stay safe. You just stay in the corner for a little longer, Steve. That's, put those ideas away. Good on you, mate. Good one. Silly, right?
Yeah.
So attention hacking is all it is how do I do something or do nothing, doesn't matter. But whatever the result is, it's me being different to what everyone else is doing.
I love that.
And it's not something that you want to do all the time.
For sure.
It's a strategy. It's a strategy, not a way of life.
I was going to say this because where people can go wrong. So like you're talking about, you say I wrote extensively about this in the opposite effect. Some people have taken that too far by saying, okay, well, if the ultimate goal is just to be different, I'm going to make that 100% of my goal. And what can happen is you become so different that you now become a threat in the eyes of the market. And so again, I think it's about balance. It's about fair exchange. And what I've come to realize, and I think I wrote about it in the book, if I didn't, I should. It's essentially that I believe 50% of the time you should be predictable.
Nice.
Because when you're predictable, you get an element of certainty, right? Like when you know something's going to happen, you're going to operate in a certain way, your piece of content is going to be somewhat predictable. They realize that there's an element of safety about you because they kind of know who you are, what you're about, how you operate. So I think 50% of your time you should be predictable. But I think the other 50% of the time you should be unpredictable. And when you sit in that middle spot, half of them's going, okay, you're a known quantity and not a threat. But the other half of them's thinking like, what the heck is he going to get up to next?
Yes. So they can't take their eyes off you.
Can't take their eyes off of you. So I think where people go too wrong is they go 100% predictable. You'll be boring as you offer no value to attention. You're just another black t-shirt in a sea of black t-shirts, or whatever. But where also people go wrong is they're like, no, I'm not even going to wear a t-shirt at all. I'm going to do a naked thing. And you're like, what? You're 100% unpredictable. And now I'm scared to give you money, right? You're scary to me. Some people go too far. So it's the middle. I think that's a really key distinction here, that it's a strategy. Attention hacking is a strategy. You don't do it all the time. Okay. It's a key thing. I found some cool part about etymology of which I think you're going to froth over, lad.
Thank you.
It's etymology is Latin, attendere, bad pronunciation, attendere, which means to give heed to. But here's what I love. Attendere actually had a literal translation. I love the words that are literal back then. And that was literally to stretch toward.
Interesting.
That's where the word came from, attendere, which was to literally stretch toward. I think there's huge clues in that of what real attention hacking is. Like
how do you interpret that yourself?
Well, I was listening to a lot of Jordan Peterson recently in podcasts and things like that, and just replays of his 12 rules for life, public speeches. And what he does is he knows when he's got full attention from people, when you could hear a pin drop in the audience. He knows he's got people's attention when there is absolute silence around whatever it is that he's talking about. When you listen to enough of his lectures, they're quite interesting. The moments that I find myself dead silent, paying attention to every single whisper and word, it's when I feel my mind being stretched in a direction. I'm now moving towards a paradigm or moving towards an environment that I've never explored before. It's when people's minds are literally blown. It's like you're stretching yourself towards something where you're like, wow, I'm now exploring an area that I never thought I would explore before. I think that's the ultimate example of attention hacking, is when you stretch people's minds. I think there's that stretching nature to it.
Very cool. Well said.
So I think it also goes to yourself. I think that word stretch is an interesting one to just dwell on and contemplate for a while. It can be used so liberally. Are you stretching yourself? Are you stretching the people you're coming in contact with, or are you remaining in that element of just blur, safety, nothing?
Well said.
It's kind of like the rubber band analogy, right? It's got no use when it's got no tension. But if you pull it too far, and it's kind of like you're too unpredictable, well, you're going to snap the thing, right?
Nice. That's it. So I think the con of attention hacking, using that as a strategy, particularly to our Australian players, our American ones, not so much. This is a difference of cultures and a difference in business culture, is that Australians typically don't like it when people try and be the center of attention. They see it as arrogant in a way. I think that's just very common in our culture as Australians. Whereas in America, it's more encouraged. It's not loved. It's
celebrated though.
It's more celebrated than it is in Australia, is all I would say.
Yeah.
So, be aware of the culture that you're in. Is it wise to have all the attention on you? When the bride is giving her speech, you don't want to be the one singing and dancing on the table, Good
analogy, right?
The attention isn't meant to be on you right now. And to make it about you right now is actually detrimental to the way you play the game.
Yeah.
Keep it in mind. I would say the con is there's more times where you could stuff up wanting attention than actually when it's worth going after it. You need to be super mindful of that.
I agree, man. I think the biggest snare or trap you can find yourself tangled up in here is when attention hacking becomes a distraction away from the core.
Nice.
You know what I mean? That's when like you're purposely trying so hard to be different that you've forgotten what the core of what the thing you were doing is.
Nice.
You know what I mean? It can be a real problem for people.
Well said.
Nice. Comments down below. Fire a question at our audience, Darth. You're good at these questions to summarize things.
Yeah, totally. So what we'd love to see with something like attention hacking is you want to look at the last time in your business, the last time in sales, that you'll have had these times before where things just clicked. It was like all of a sudden you didn't have any leads or you weren't making any sales over the last 2 or 3 weeks or whatever it was. And then all of a sudden in 1 week, everything just started coming through. Things went in flow. Okay. Attention started being paid to you. Okay. Ask yourself, what was it that you were doing differently to the rest of your market around you that allowed that to happen? Or what was the thing you started doing just differently to the way that you were behaving before? Now, as an example,
that's huge, dude.
Yeah, as an example, Steve, you and I know this. A lot of consultants in our field will wear suit and tie, and that's how they show up. That's how the entire market shows up. But you and I, despite doing these videos in a collared shirt or whatever, but typically we work in collared shirts. But you and I have found great number one, pleasure, and number two, revenue in not dressing like everyone else. We do these styles of videos more casually because we're having more fun when every other business thinks this is serious. This is how you achieve it. Here's the
lights, here's the script, here's the,
Totally. So understand that by doing things differently with respect to your market is a great way to attention hack. I would love to know, like, when was the last time you noticed yourself you did that and it worked? Take note of those times because those are the ones that you want to double down on. Okay. The best way you can help yourself learn with something like this is remind yourself of examples of where you already know this to be true.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of this, Steve. It's probably a good way to, this is our last slide on this little section, isn't it? I believe it is.
Yeah.
A good way to wrap this up is please understand when we're delivering this content to you, if anything we're telling you is resonating, which we assume it is, please understand that for it to resonate, you wouldn't be watching by now if it wasn't. For it to be resonating, it must be hitting on a part of your brain or your body or your mind, your memory, that you already knew it to be true.
For sure.
We're just confirming it for you. And that's one of the best ways to understand the model of learning is realizing, hey, I can do this. Or I hear Steve say that and that sounds really good. It's like, it sounds really good because you knew you could have done it yourself as well. You just needed a little confirmation.
There's a remembering nature to it.
Totally. And so one of the best ways to instill that in your psyche is comment below with times where this applied to you. Best way to go.
Yeah, that's great. Well done, man.
Cool.
Done. So that's part 3, done and dusted, picking your winning strategy. You might notice how the word picking has come up. We said it at the start, said it at the end.
And it's just a strategy. It's not a way of life. Not a personality.
It's no different to you picking what beer you're going to drink tonight, like, or what you're going to...
What are you going to wet the whistle with?
What? Yeah. How are you going to wet the whistle? The beer is not you. You've just decided to pick it, okay? That's all it is. All right, we'll see you in the next video.